Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 2024 Magic Micsies, proudly sponsored by CoolStuffInc.com, Mana traders, as well as Twitch subs and Patreon supporters just like you. I'm Evan Irwin. We get started each week by saying hello to our, to our co-host for this Magic Micsies. We've got REUBEN Bressler over here.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you.
Power Dragon.
What's up, everybody? And I think the winners are actually appropriate this year.
Let's hope so. And special guest for the Magic Micsies, Aaron Campbell.
Yeah.
Hey, how's it going?
Yay.
Welcome
Thanks
back.
for having me.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd say back. I'm just here.
You're visiting. I'm not saying you're back forever. I'm just saying you're back.
I'm saying she's back
now.
for Micsies, and there's nothing
I'm back
wrong
for
with that.
tonight.
It's a vintage appearance.
Oh my God. All right. Well,
Hey!
A throwback, if you will.
Vintage appearance.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. We'll keep it in the,
Love that.
the lexicon. All right, cool. We'll go ahead and get started with the Magic Micsies. Let's go ahead because we got plenty of categories to chat about. And so, first up, the first category is Best WotC Move. And last year's winner was the GenCon 3-year announcement day, of which we just experienced the first year of that.
Yeah.
I still think that was the best thing from last year.
It was.
And it's been paying off ever since.
Nice.
Yeah. So for this year, the nominees for Best WotC Move are Sheldon Spellbook, Foundation's Beginner Box, Ravnica Clue Edition, Learning from Aftermath, Foundation's Era Changes, and Getting Rid of Stickers and Attractions in Constructed Formats. And the winner goes to, and this was partially thanks to the patrons who got to vote for the winners for the first time ever.
Nice.
And that would be Sheldon Spellbook. Is the Best WotC Move, the Mixie for Best WotC Move in 2024.
You know, I want to say just on the category as a whole, for as much as we just bash Wizards and, you know, there's these problems or whatever, there were actually a lot of good things to pick from. You know, like considering how the year went and all the ups and downs, like they had definitely more hits than misses. The misses are loud and, you know, we talk about them a lot, but the hits were pretty big and really good. So this was a good category, honestly.
Yeah, the Spellbook was such a great move. I mean, Sheldon's death left literal shockwaves throughout the community. You know, it affected the competitive side. It affected the commander folks. We're still feeling a lot of the effects from his absence and his loss. And so to turn that into something positive, I think it raised, over $2 million for cancer research. And so, you know, just a beautiful way to pay homage to this person and to remember them and to turn something negative into a positive. And so it was just beautiful. And the cards were good. It was just a home run on all fronts.
It is important always to note that negativity always gets more clicks, more eyeballs, more comments. And the only thing the algorithm cares about is clicks and comments and attention. Does not matter what kind.
Hey,
so good things are good, though.
Yeah.
But speaking of the things that get all the clicks and all the engagement, let's just move on here to the Magic Micsie for Worst WotC Move. Back in the day, we used to call this the dumbest one, but we grew up a little bit.
Okay.
It's not children.
Not if you've listened to the pre-show, we haven't.
Well, there's that, but that's different now.
Very true. Y'all
professionally,
you need to catch up because you missed out on some good discussions.
Some fun stuff. Now, last year's winner for Worst WotC Move was the D&D Open Gaming License, which was just horrible. There was no good part of it. Nothing made sense, and it was all bad. So, but the Worst WotC Move Magic Micsie nominees for this year are Murders at Karlov Manor, Commander bans for Jeweled Lotus, Mana Crypt, and Dockside Extortionist, AI-generated Ravnica Remastered ads, Too Many Products, and Whatever Happened with Nadu. The Worst WotC Move Magic Micsie goes to Too Many Damn Products.
Yeah.
Thank you, patrons. 46.2% voted for Too Many Products. It's just everything on stuff on everything. Did you even know what an Oracle deck was? I didn't even know what an Oracle deck was.
No.
They released one of those this year.
I still don't know what that is.
Oh, buckle yourself in for 2025 then, my friend.
Well, didn't Morrow put up a post on the Blogatog where he said something to the effect of like, we've heard you, and I think 2025 they're down to 5 scheduled products, down from 9.
Well, because a couple of them are larger is the thing. We're getting 2 other full-size sets is the issue there.
Okay.
Isn't Innistrad Remastered coming out in like 2 weeks?
January? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a week and a half
and we don't have a preview yet or a preview season I mean, there's too many products.
There's so many products.
Now, I will say that this one was close. 2 of the hosts voted for this and 2 of the hosts voted for a different topic. And anytime I'm on the Evan side of an issue, I'm wary if I've made a mistake. But I think that it was close.
I resent that.
Yeah, like here's my thing. Like from a personal standpoint, I almost voted for the commander bans just because of the literal hate and vitriol that came from that. But
we'll talk about that later.
Yeah,
exactly.
I don't think that was a bad move.
But generally, it was the Nadu thing for me, right? I felt like we all knew it was bad. It was bad. It was a problem in every format it was in. Like they just waited way too long to do something about it. And by the time they did, it was almost to the point that nobody cared. We kind of just went like, oh, finally. We've been asking you for like 3 months and like whatever. So yeah, that was a weird one that it just took so long to deal with. I'm not even sure what they were waiting on because it wasn't even like it was a super expensive card. Or it was just a weird decision.
The reason I chose the Nadu thing along with Daquan was I felt like it was a rare look behind the curtain into R&D, and what we saw behind the curtain was very concerning. You had this rare mea culpa that came out from Wizards where they essentially apologized and said it was a mistake. You saw issues with testing in which they indicated that, ironically enough, the change was supposedly done to make it more attractive in Commander, and then they broke a whole other format that the set was designed for in response. You had it playing on a lot of people's fears about Commander being a priority over other competitive formats. And it also led to some questions about, to tie it back to the too many products, is this a side effect of this steady clip of products to where is the quality suffering because you're pumping out too much product? Like it just wrapped all of it in a really gross bow.
Oh, we're not done talking about Nadu, y'all. But we got to keep moving here. Let's move on here to what has kind of been transferred a little bit as a topic. We used to be hashtag of the year, but these days it's hashtag/trend of the year. Let's just get a bit of a wider net of what we're talking about. Now, last year's winner was MTG Ambassador, hashtag MTG Ambassador. And that program is going through some changes. And they've adjusted how they've done stuff.
Still controversial.
Kind of controversial in that way. But that said, let's go ahead and look over our nominees for trend/hashtag of the year. The first is hashtag MTG Booty. That came back in April 2024.
That's been a nominee 3 years in a row, and it won 3 years ago.
It did win 3 years ago. The first time it showed up, everybody got into it. Hashtag Ward 3, the Voja debate. I don't know. Voja's not a very fair match card, particularly in Commander.
Right.
The Rockin' Mouse on Valley Questcaller.
Oh, yeah.
Because that was a whole thing.
Yeah.
Hashtag MTG Drip, because you got to keep it, tight.
You do.
But the winner is the Humans of Magic. The Magic Micsies goes to the Humans of Magic, hashtag the mob won, quote the mob won, the mob won. And it's weird because thanks to the crappening of the internet, it's kind of difficult to actually figure out what in the hell actually happened there. And secondly, because we like to stay monetized, I don't even want to get into very much of what happened there. Okay.
Yeah. I do want to say that the quote the mob won did very quickly achieve meme status within the Magic community. For those of us who've been around for a while, you will remember Underground Dojo Keyboard Cage Fighters.
Oh, yeah.
That was 2012, you guys. That was so long ago, and it is still part of the lexicon.
Yeah.
So, when you have such a good quote, when you have an indelible quote of like, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. Like, draw me like one of your French girls. The mob won. It is such a famous and perfect quote that is going to be used in perpetuity.
Yeah.
I'll say this too. I think that should be a good example to content creators, truthfully, of just be aware of the fact that everybody's listening. No matter what you say, no matter what, somebody's going to take something away from that. And you shouldn't put anything out there that you're not willing to defend, that you're not willing to back up on some level, because somebody may have issue with it.
Yeah.
Right.
There's also a really great phrase in the PR world. If you can't rebuild a house in a hurricane, and you could almost imagine him on the roof hammering shingles as the storm is blowing around him. And I was texting Evan as this was happening. I was like, log off, tell him to log off.
Yeah, man.
Anytime, what are you doing?
Anytime I think I'm close to being the main character for a day, I'm always like, I just need to put my phone far away because it's 1,000 degrees and it will burn my hand if I touch it.
But you know what? you also got to vet your guests and your relationships.
You do.
Sure.
You know, who you're doing business with, because that matters.
To give people just a little bit of context that that we can stay within our lanes here. Let's just say things got political in a Magic podcast. If we're talking, y'all, we're playing with wizard squares, okay? When we're talking about the wizard squares, leave the geopolitics stuff out of it. That's just all you gotta do.
No matter how well equipped you think you are probably not that well equipped to discuss a topic of that gravity on a Magic show. Like, we made that decision a lot of times in the past where something would come up and we were like, this is well above our pay grade. You have Google. We're not going to do this, because we just knew we weren't equipped to do it. And I think this was a really great example where I get what you were trying to do, but the execution just didn't work.
Yeah.
So
it's
also
tough.
For what it's worth, MTG Booty is always going to get a vote for me every year.
That's right.
But, you know,
every year? Nice.
Every year. I'm
all right. Listen, every time it pops up, I participate.
He's a single issue voter.
That's right. I'm a single issue, double cheeked voter.
Hey, I'm a simple man. You like what you like. That's all I'm saying.
I get you.
That's all I'm saying.
Booty there, we checked the box.
I love it. Listen, I've gotten Arcades Commander attacks. Commander deck. I love attacking with butts.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Know, all right. I want to deal damage as if it was my toughness. I like that stuff too.
Goodness.
So
I might just show up next week dressed like Sir Mix-a-Lot just because of that. I'm just saying.
Right, perfect.
You need the giant fiberglass ass.
Exactly.
All right. Well, on that note, let's pivot here to a little bit more somber, serious part of the show of our Magic Micsies each year, where unfortunately we must talk about the In Memoriam section, where things are no longer with us, some of it being some people, some of it being some things, and we'll split those up amongst all of us as we go over them here. But Ruben, go ahead and tackle our first amount of In Memoriam.
Yes, we lost some number of community members this year from all across the Magic community who added a lot to our game, including Grand Prix champion Alex Hahn, who won Grand Prix Richmond in 2018. We lost a few MTG artists, including Greg Hidebrandt and Akira Toriyama, as well as Massimilano Frezzato, all of whom have made, Akira and Massimilano made dozens of pieces of art for Magic, and Greg Hidebrandt was in the hundreds. And then, of course, CubeCon's creator and a alderman in the Milwaukee area, Jonathan Brostoff, a.k.a. Team J-Bro, also passed away this year.
Well, Brostoff stung for me because I live in Milwaukee, and so I knew him through Magic, and I knew him outside of it, and it was just a stunning loss.
Yeah.
Yeah, and our thoughts and thoughts and good feelings off to their families and whatnot. And I hate to hear about all that; it was terrible. And if you are hurting, please reach out. Don't keep it inside. Let's move on here to Mr. Power Dragon. What you got?
Oh man, there was a lot of things that weren't actually people that just disappeared this year. So starting with Magic Spell Slingers, that's almost a throwback for some people. You may not even know what that was. It kind of almost silently went away in a very unfortunate fashion. And of course, everything with Commander, with the Commander Rules Committee, the CAG, that is no more. There is now the Commander Format Panel, I think is what we're calling that now, the CFP. So yeah, that's now changed. We actually changed an entire step in combat for Magic. Yeah. So the whole ordering blockers thing is now really no more, which is kind of weird. Well, yeah, it is. Just how you use instants during that step has now changed. So that's a whole thing. We got rid of a lot of cards. So Mana Crypt, Jeweled Lotus, Dockside Extortionist, and Nadu all gone in Commander. So yeah, exactly. Just finger guns all those guys because their time has come and gone. And we did have a bunch of pre-bans in Historic, which also happened with Mana Drain. And, we had Force of Vigor, Reanimate, Commandeer, just a whole list of cards that kind of got their knees taken out before they even got a chance to try to run. So there was a lot that went down as far as cards this year.
And I will note, I am not okay with pre-bans. I dislike pre-bans.
Oh.
Let things be problems before you decide.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
Ooh, just let people have 3 weeks of mana drain before.
How long did we have Nadu before that?
It's good for him. Builds character.
That's right.
Pre-ban that crap, but they didn't. Aaron?
So we also said farewell to every single sticker and attraction card in Legacy, Vintage, and Pauper, which I think was Evan's vote for one of the best choices of the year. We also said farewell to all that glitters in Cranial Ram and Pauper, or Pauper, as some people lovingly call it. Violent Outburst, Nadu, and Grief are now gone in Modern, along with Amped Raptor. Try saying that one 3 times fast. The One Ring and Gigantha. And then finally, we said goodbye to Amalia and Soren in Pioneer, and Gigantha also in Pioneer.
There you go. All right. Well, as we round out our In Memoriam segment, Grief was banned in Legacy. Psychic Frog and Vexing Bauble were banned in Legacy as well. Urza Saga was restricted and Vexing Bauble was banned in Vintage. Or was Vexing Bauble restricted?
It might have been restricted.
It's restricted. Vintage doesn't really do bans. It's restricted.
Right. That's my bad.
I should have looked that up. I looked up Urza Saga, and then I was like, well, Vexing Bauble is kind of annoying.
It's a little weird. That's fine.
Galvanic Discharge and Guide of Souls and Ocelot Pride were rebalanced in Arena.
Yeah, and there's still a problem.
They're still ridiculous, which is crazy. Leyline of Resonance was banned in Best of One Standard. Thank you so much.
You felt strongly about that. I saw the posts.
There's a feel like, when I play Magic, I like it, but when they would slap that down on the other side, it was like a cloud would just come over me. You know what I mean? Like it'd be like, well, this sucks. This game's going to be terrible.
Yeah.
And it was suspended in Alchemy, as it should be. And Gigantha was banned in Explorer because Gigantha was doing this weird.
Yeah.
Companions are broken, right?
Yeah.
If a 5/5 for 5 that costs 3 to put into your hand gets banned, you know that the ability is just broken.
Luris is still one of the top decks in Vintage going into this year. And it was already, they restricted it. Like they already took a step before it, and it's still not, people love Luris. Like it just does what it does.
I will, speaking of voting for things every year until something is done about them, I will vote for Alchemy to be the worst WotC decision if it's ever on the list.
I don't even know what Alchemy is.
It's a bad idea.
I don't even know her.
Yeah.
It ostensibly is trying to do a thing that it's not even doing anymore. So
they just seem to have given up on the idea of active rebalancing. Like the Leyline got it, I think, because there was enough outcry. But there used to be. Remember when Kamigawa came out, Neon Dynasty, and they went through and made all the samurai better because, and they they did a dozen cards and all the costs went down on all the samurai because they were like, we were too safe with it, sorry, and it was cool. You could build a B tier deck with samurai now. That was neat, but they just stopped doing it, and that makes me really sad. Let's go ahead and move on here to our most hated card of the year. Now, 2023, that was Orcish Bowmasters because it was
well deserved.
Fair.
Still a problem,
and still a pain in my butt. Still a whole thing, which is unfortunate. But that said, the nominees this year for most hated card are the One Ring Heartfire Hero, Leyline of Resonance, the Blank Goblin sticker Infinity card guy.
Yeah. Well, right? You need the Mind Goblin.
You need the Mind Goblin there, right?
Yeah.
Mind Goblin these. Well, Writhing Chrysalis was annoying and terrible in Modern Horizons 3 Limited. Nadu Winged Wisdom shows up because it did its thing, and Psychic Frog was our last option. And the Magic Mixie for most hated card, after the One Ring with a few votes, and with the patrons making the decision here, is Nadu Winged Wisdom.
Yeah, so this one was along similar lines to the worst WotC move of the year vote, where Nadu was up for worst move, it was up for most hated card, and it was very clear that it was going to win one or both of those categories, and so it ended up taking the most hated card.
Yeah, I was with Taquan in that we voted for the One Ring. I'm going to say something controversial yet brave. I think that people didn't hate Nadu so much as they hated what Nadu represents, if that makes sense. Where, it represented, like I talked about earlier, this idea that, Commander has ruined a competitive format. That's what people were probably thinking. The way that it was allowed to go on for so long, that Modern was allowed to stay broken for so long. I think it was more what it represented that really fueled a lot of that passion. Maybe it's just me.
Well,
no, that's fair.
The patrons clocked in at 53.8% on this one.
A lot of them.
So
yeah. I was on the One Ring with you. I just think the play that it allows and the number of decks it shows up in is just so high now that even doing commentary or whatever, I'm just like, you go over deck list and okay, we're gonna see this at least 15 times today. Just like,
oh, that's interesting.
It just makes everything just so bad. So like, I'm glad that people hate it. I get it. I get why you voted for Nadu, but yeah, I'm still on the One Ring.
It's currently in a tier 1 deck in Vintage. There's a deck called Jewel Shops, which can we talk about the fact that Coveted Jewel is the centerpiece of a tier 1 deck in Vintage. I mean, look at God. But
I love drafting that deck in the cube also.
But I mean, you play it in Vintage and you not only play a One Ring, but then you metamorph the One Ring and then you paradoxical outcome the One Ring and you just don't die. And then, like you said, it just creates a really weird play pattern. It draws out the game unnecessarily. Say what you will about that damn ley line. At least the game was over. But I will say, on the flip side, people are coming up with some really crazy answers to it. There's that weird replicate card that like counters a trigger to build. That card's everywhere now, and you can partially thank the One Ring for that.
Weird. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Good.
What you got to do.
Well, there you go. All right. So that was a very, very hated card, and we're still not done talking about it. That's our 2024, everybody. Now, look, for 2024, if last year's winner of most loved card was Sir Ginger the Mealender, which was...
How could you not, though?
Yeah.
Lovely, wonderful card. I also think we generally, in this particular category, tend to have a lot of recency bias, I feel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, during the end of the year, we think of what's in the last few sets of the year and so on. So there is that. And I try to do my best to reach around, all the...
All right, buddy.
Reach to the different
That's
cards
on the pre-show.
That is on the pre-show. And then reach to all the different cards around the sets of the year. So that said, let's go ahead to the category of most loved card. This year, the nominees are the Wise Mothman, Caretaker's Talent, Psychic
Hold on.
Frog.
Wait. You said Mothman like he went to my synagogue.
I was just about to say, you said it like he was a lawyer.
You said
Mothman.
I was just thinking that.
I'd like to call you up to the Bema, Wise Mothman. Thank you.
Mr. Mothman?
Yeah.
What do you say for your client?
Oh my God.
The Wise Mothman. Okay. Lord, let me get the slide back up here. You
sounded like he was from
Sounds like
England
somebody my aunt
second.
would try to set me up with.
That's right.
Have you met Mr. Mothman?
Have you met the Wise Mothman?
Mothman is he's right there. Caretaker's Talent, Psychic Frog, Three Tree City, Yoshimaru Ever Faithful, Sheldon the Commander, the alt Ruhan from the Secret Lair, and Loot, the Key to Everything. And I have a feeling that someone changed their vote by the time I made the slide.
That was me.
So that said, when I was making graphics this afternoon, we had a tie of who was going to win this one. And at the time, I said the tie was going to be broken by the patrons who gave us our winner here. The Magic Micsie for most loved card goes to Yoshimaru Ever Faithful. This is the Secret Lair version that shows them hanging out together, and they would never again be parted, which is just beautiful and lovely.
Specifically that version, because it's so sad that Yoshimaru waited on the throne day after day, waiting for the Wanderer to come back home, and now he's back, or she's back. She's back. They are back together, and that makes me very happy.
Can we talk about the fact that they keep trying to make loot happen? And maybe it's just the bubble that I'm in, but it doesn't seem to be working.
Yeah. Well, they didn't try very hard to make loot happen.
That's fair.
Yeah.
They tried in one set, and then nothing ever happened after that.
But I think on some level, it's very similar to Kellen, how we ended up with, because he's going to be one in each of the next 5 sets or something or whatever.
Jesus,
because he's the current, I guess you want to call him, tour guide of the ley lines or whatever.
Sure.
So we're gonna have more loot and we'll figure it out, I guess. But a lot of the Kellens were the same way. They really didn't get played except for 3 of them. So doesn't surprise me. Yeah, my vote though, I voted for the Sheldon Commander card. It was just too many good feels there. Everything else, it just, all the emotions around it. I just thought it was a good tribute thing, something that I hope becomes a standard, when some other important members of the community pass that have that level of importance get a card. I think that would be really cool, or a set of cards, a secret layer, whatever it is. Right. Whether that's Marrow or whoever down the line, I think it'd be really cool for something like that to become a standard. So yeah, I think the other 60% of patrons that voted were probably more accurately correct than the 30%.
30% of the patrons, which was, and note, I do note these are the largest margins. So 30% of the patrons, 30.8, did vote for Yoshimaru, and that's where that went. So let's move on here to Drama of the Year. Such wonderful stuff to talk about. Now, last year's winner was D&D's OGL 1.1 debacle, which, as we covered earlier, was the worst WotC move, and it was a giant mess, and no one liked it. This year, the nominees for Drama of the Year are Faye Dalton's Trouble in Pairs Plagiarism, Dave Raposa leaves WotC due to AI usage, Universes Beyond is now in Standard, Commander banning Drama, Cube Controversy, AI quote-unquote art, and Humans of Magic's quote, The Mob Won. And it is unanimous. I believe this is the only unanimous vote of the entire 2024 Magic Micsies, and that is Drama of the Year is the Commander banning Drama.
Yeah.
And I think no one could better explain that to us shortly than Power Dragon.
Man, okay, first off, in this category, I really only thought there were 2 or 3 that even had a shot, but I think this one by far just dominated the airwaves. I don't know if there's a single content creator, podcast, whatever, that didn't do at least 1 or 2 pieces on this. Like, it was that big. And I don't think we've had anything in the community that, like, there's been stuff we've all talked about, but nothing that dominated the entire Magic zeitgeist for like 3 weeks straight. Not to mention, like we had talked about earlier, there was death threats to people were being doxxed, like to the point that they were offering to give us individual security at MagicCon. Like that's how bad it got at one point. So like just way huge overreaction to a lot of stuff. It got out of hand really fast. So this was an easy choice for me.
That was the thing that stuck out the most to me about this, is that in the many years of doing this show, sometimes drama is fun, right? Where like you can kind of pull out your popcorn and there's a little bit of amusement to be found there. This was just ugly. Like, it was ugly. It was painful. Anytime I learned about it, it always felt like it was kind of against my will of like, why is this happening? I don't like anything I'm seeing here. It brought up a lot of really old issues, like, I hate to say it, misogyny. When you look at the way that Olivia was treated compared to other people. And it just was just an awful, it went on forever. Like, it felt like it just went on forever. It was just nothing about it that felt good. Like, it just felt terrible. And that's not to say that anybody owes us a feel-good drama, but like, to me, that's what set it apart, was just how nasty it was.
I think on top of that, though, there was so much that was misdirected, right? Like, Shivam, for example, was taking a beating, and he was in the same situation I was in, where we didn't even have anything to do with the decision. We found out like 48 hours before everybody else. Like, we, and it's just like, dude, he's one of the nicest dudes in the world. And like, he didn't even want to come out in public. For like he ended up not going to the events, because he just didn't want to deal with it. And on top of that, we had people making up stuff and posting it. That's what made it worse for me. It's just like, things are already bad enough, guys. Like, we don't, so I'm having to like follow trails of people and correct people and point stuff out that's wrong. And like, so I'm taking a little bit of a beating for that. And it's just like, it just got worse by the second. Till finally everybody came around and said, okay, this is getting out of hand. People are getting threats. Like, we need to back off for a second.
There was so much of emotion involved, and that really led to these fires of misinformation being stoked. Like, there was a comment on Reddit talking about the issues with printing, where some people had said, Wizards knew these cards were going to get banned and they printed them anyways. And it's like, but Wizards takes about 6 months to a year to print a set. Yeah. This wasn't necessarily a stop the presses moment. So there wasn't necessarily this deep state conspiracy where, it wasn't as if, Wizards was purposely selling you these cards. It might have been just too late. And then, you heard these wild rumors of like almost like insider trading, and the effects are still being felt. I think Jim LePage took a big step back and was like, I'm just not, he's so kind of wounded by this, and rightfully so, that he's like, I just can't continue. Like, it was brutal.
And the worst is, we were all volunteers. Like nobody was being paid. It was just for the love of the game, y'all. That's all it was.
Right. And the fact that, there were 2 groups, not just one group, There was the rules committee and the advisory committee. The fact that it was not anybody like technically from Wizards. It wasn't from like the monolith of Wizards. It was these like 5 or 6 people and whatnot. And they were very public in that, hey, we are on these committees and so on. So here comes the people at them. Because why? Because you damaged the value of my collection. And that's why we can be terrible people. And that's not okay. And it just seemed to build, right? It just built over and over till finally Wizards was like, look, A, we got to look out for y'all. And B, we'll just take it on. You can hate the monolith of Wizards all you want. It'll be fine. We'll have spokespeople. But at the end of the day, Wizards made the decision, not someone you're going to send death threats to, you maniac.
Well, I think it even transcended. Like, weren't there agitators on Twitter that didn't have anything to do with Magic, but they had large followings, and so they picked up on it? And so it kind of reminded me of Magic-Ade in a sense that it really almost metastasized, for lack of a better term, where it started off being our problem, and then it just kind of took on a life of its own and really, really brought some bad elements to things.
Yeah, for sure.
It got gross. So glad that's behind us. Now let's move on here.
Let's hope.
Well, real quick, we had a raid from the 5th member of our
Nerd
show.
Girl.
Nerd Girl raided us. Thank you all so much for showing up.
Oh, yeah, it's all the corgi bugs in chat.
I suppose I will change who we're raiding. Because I guess it's not available to be rated anymore. So I will get on that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And if it's your first time here, we are a talk show about Magic. We happen every Wednesday night around this time. And feel free to stop by if you like what you're hearing.
Right. And right now we're doing our Micsies, the Magic Micsies, which are the award show for the last year.
We get all dressed up.
Yep.
Get all dressed up, exactly right. You'll have to go back and check out our picks for the best and worst move, the most loved and hated card. But we got the big awards coming up, so you showed up just in time.
There you go. So we're gonna look at right now at artwork of the year. Last year's winner was kind of interesting. It was actually the TARDIS border cards in the Doctor Who product.
Oh yeah.
Like that whole pastiche, I guess as it were, was really cool. Yes, I'm using that word. Yeah,
that's a big word.
You're doing amazing, sweetie.
big old word for a Southern man like me. Now, look, for artwork of the year, our nominees are Storm, Force of Nature from the Marvel Secret Lair, Ink Shield from the Sheldon Secret Lair by Donato Giancola, Doubling Season from the Foundation's Extended Art, Detectives Phoenix from Modern Horizons 3, Tameo Seasoned Scholar from the extended version of Modern Horizons 3, the Evan Fong version, Psychic Frog from the MH3 extended version from Chuck Lukacs, I think is how you say it, or Lukacs. Stargaze from Bloomborough from Serena Malneon. Damnation from the special guest from Duskborn. Time Sieve from Secret Lair from Peach Momoko. And Insidious Roots from Murders of Karlov Manor, which was one of the absolute highlights of that set. And the winner of Artwork of the Year is Ink Shield by Donato Giancola for the Sheldon Menery Secret Lair.
Yeah. For me, this was an easy one. I felt like this, I loved all of the art in the Sheldon Secret Lair, but this one in particular to me was the card that needed to be in the thing and needed to have the most Sheldon-y art. And I love this piece. So
it's a good one. It would have been my number 2 pick. You know, what's funny is I had this thought when I saw which way the patrons voted on this. And I was like, well, since you didn't give it to the Sheldon card and the most loved, you gave it. It's like when they gave Tim Zell the Oscar for Training Day. Like, that wasn't really his best thing, but like, it's like a make good. So you kind of got to give it to him. You know, that's sort of what that felt like.
This is a makeup call. All right.
No, I honestly, though, I thought the Storm piece was amazing. Like it looked better to me than the old artwork I saw growing up as a comic book fan. Like Magali just nailed that solid. Like I saw that and went, I wish I had more money because I know he's going to auction this piece and I'm not going to be able to afford it. Like as soon as I saw it.
I chose Storm as well. And I haven't raved about Magali in a while, but damn it, Magali. Like, just, you know, she's one of those artists, I've said it before, where, you know, she's had a long, illustrious career. You might be wondering, is she going to take a break? Is she going to rest? You know, does she have any more fuel in the tank? And she consistently finds new ways to blow you out of the water, new pockets of like things to try. Of like, now she's getting into comic. Is there anything she can't do? And especially a character that we've seen so many times before. We've seen so many fantastic Storms through the year, and it was innovative and beautiful, and just I just see, like I lovingly see, like I see it on my phone and I just say to myself, damn it, Magali, damn it.
Oh, Magali's Final Fantasy pieces they previewed the other day
she
too.
Can't keep doing this.
Ooh, I'm not even the biggest Final Fantasy fan, but those were gorgeous. So
yeah, she shows no signs of slowing down.
Yeah, I was definitely blown away by that piece. I'm gonna see if I can get it up on screen here for you guys. Get on studio mode right here.
Yeah, and I think that's also tells you the quality of artists that Wizards is going after, because they're doing better versions of artwork that other teams have done renditions of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're fans of those other things and still going like, I'd rather have this one from the Magic artist. You know, right? Like, which is crazy to even say.
That is one of the upsides of this Universes Beyond world that we're about to enter, is that we are going to be the beneficiaries of hundreds of pieces of new art for IPs that we like or love. It happened with Lord of the Rings. We got hundreds of new pieces of Lord of the Rings art done by artists that wouldn't normally be able to do it for that IP because the crossover of who pays who for what wouldn't have matched up. But because we can pay dozens of the top fantasy artists in the world what they are worth because it's attached to a card game. So that is the silver lining on this Universes Beyond multiverse that we're about to enter.
I would say even beyond that, it's artwork that just would never exist otherwise because there's no reason for it to.
Right.
Right? Like they're coming from stories and from other things, and this is the only reason for this artwork to even exist, so we get those depictions of it.
I would also imagine it's fun for the artists. Like, it's got to be a trip for Victor Adame Minguez to be like, you're going to paint Wolverine. Like, I imagine he had a great time. And so these artists get to flex a little bit and kind of play in spaces they're not used to. And it's got to be great for them, too.
Oh, at some point, they were 10, 12, 13-year-olds sketching their favorite comic artists. Too. And then, like, now you get to do one and be paid for it? Like, what?
Sure.
Exactly.
That's amazing. So yeah, love that stuff. Congratulations to Donato, because they did a fantastic job. We want to hear to coverage moment of the year, the Magic Micsie for coverage moment of the year. Now this last year's winner was Post Malone buying the One Ring for $2.3 million. So
that was kind of cool, though.
That video,
all of them, so
great.
we never have to deal with them again.
Yeah.
So coverage can be also covered in the media type thing.
Right.
Yeah.
We got so lucky that the world's nicest and most humble person decided to buy that.
Exactly. Well, and I was definitely a liar earlier where nothing was overwhelmingly voted for, but we'll get to that in a second. Our nominees for coverage moment of the year are Magic Fest Chicago Sells Out, Dwayne the Rock Commentator, which was an April Fool's joke.
That was great.
That was great.
The
that was
Kai
a good one.
Buddha Player of the Year announcement. Live coverage returns for SCG events, and the Great Foundations build-off, which just happened in the past couple weeks, which was really cute and clever.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. But the winner, the Magic Micsie, for coverage moment of the year, overwhelmingly, even the patrons, 73.1% of the patrons.
Yeah.
So it was the Kai Buddha Player of the Year announcement. It was incredible. It was emotional. It was lovely. I wanted to try to cut like a part out of it to play here, but I just felt like nothing could really showcase how much those like 15 minutes really just, explain how important Kai is to the game and what he's done for the game and how he's just beloved by everyone. I mean, the guy is fantastic, and I'm no pro player, and he was always fantastic to me, never short with me, never had an issue explaining stuff that I was like, what does this mean? How does that work? Like, he's just super smart dude. Unfortunately, having some health issues they were talking about, and I'm glad that he could get this honor before anything happened.
Yeah, the footage is very hard to watch. I mean, Huey couldn't keep it together. The coverage folks couldn't keep it together, and rightfully so. The thing that really broke me was to see Reed Duke sobbing in the audience. And Reed's known for being fairly reserved with his emotions. Like, he's not somebody you normally see good or bad outbursts for. And to see him just not even be able to contain himself, and just see everybody just kind of falling apart, and to see chat and to see that, the response from Reddit and social media. And more importantly, I think this was also just a painful reminder that, we tend to think of these really, really good players. We put them on a pedestal, and rightfully so. But more importantly, we imagine that it's always going to last forever, right? It never crosses our mind that Finkel isn't going to be here one day, or that Kai isn't going to be here one day. And I think what really made this hurt so much was, aside from the obvious, the reality that they're just like us, and bodies are fragile, and cancer sucks. And, we are getting older. This ride is going to end someday. And I think it was just, on top of everything else, it was just a reminder of that, just how fragile we are. And that, for as much as we think of Kai freaking Buddha, he's human, and this happens, and it sucks.
Yeah. This might be the coverage moment of the last 10 years. Was such an incredible moment. The 15 minutes are etched in my memory. They're well worth your time to go see if you haven't seen them already. And it's so rare, and I said this when it happened, and we covered it on the regular show. It's so rare that we get to thank people while they're here. Yes. And tell them how much they mean to us while they're here. And this is a great way to do it.
Mm-hmm. I just need Magic to quit being sad on me, because like this was one of those moments. It's like last year when we got the BDM last interview with Sheldon or whatever, right? It had that vibe to me of just like, sure, you almost felt like you're witnessing the last moments, you know, and
almost like a eulogy.
Yeah, it's tough, you know, but it's cool that we're getting these tribute pieces for people that have been around for 20 years and made these deep impacts on everybody. So it's really cool that we got it. The other moments were great. I mean, you know, the rock thing was funny on commentary as an April Fool's thing. You know, I thought those, even the build off, I thought, shorts. I think we should have had a little more in there. It should have been 5 or 6 episodes, but it wasn't bad. As a pilot.
If our complaint is that we want more of it, that's a good piece of content.
Exactly. Yeah. But you can't really compete with the naming of the trophy and all that. Like that's just a real moment.
Yeah. My favorite Kai moment was I got to have him on the deck tease years ago, and I stayed up until 3 a.m. because of time zone differences, because you do that for Kai Buddha. And we had a lovely conversation, and he would even kind of DM me after the fact and just kind of ask me about things in the community where, you know, specifically when because I was really on the Women in Magic train for a while, and rightfully so. And, you know, sometimes he would DM me and be like, what do I not know about this? And what can I be better about? And so we would just kind of talk about social issues, and he just had this really dry sense of humor.
Yeah.
And I knew him a couple times at events, and I'm just so boisterous and he's just so not. And just a great guy, and it's just a real disappointment all around.
Yeah,
that this is happening.
Very German in all the senses.
Yeah.
As it
even when it was time to take the podium, he was like, you know,
any other year, some of these things might have had a chance, but this year, this was it.
Yeah, it blows my mind that I've known Kai for 16 years going on now. Jesus Christ, I'm old. So, you know, I'm over here like just getting destroyed. And so I never felt kind of like a scene, as it were, when they cut back to the desk and they're just like me, and there's just wet, just like tears flowing.
These are professionals.
Can't handle it.
Yeah. Like Maria's an award-winning commentator, and she's like, I can't go on.
We need a moment, right? They're like, we'll cut. Yeah. We'll be back in a minute because we gotta get ourselves together. So that was the whole thing, and Kai's awesome. So let's move on here to the next Magic Mixie, and that is, we're getting to some big ones now. This is Format of the Year. Yeah. Last year's winner was Commander. And I believe, looking back, the year before that was Commander.
I would say for like 3 years running.
The year before that was like Commander over, well, when we went to the pandemic times, was Pandemic over Webcam.
Right, Webcam Commander.
Webcam Commander was a winner. Spell table type stuff was a whole thing. So so last year's winner was Commander, and this year, I can't believe this. Again, another sweep. Ladies and gentlemen, the Format of the Year is Standard.
Yeah, crazy.
Can you imagine me saying that 12 months ago? Like, seriously, it has improved so much. It's incredible.
I think this is one of those things where we heard them say, I guess it was a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we have these plans coming for Standard, right? We want this to be a thing. Like, and it was kind of like, okay, well, when? But not realizing, like, hey, they've been planting the seeds and putting stuff in there the whole time. And now we've changed rotation. We changed what time of the year it's going to rotate. We're making these sets that are going to be around longer. Like, all these little bitty things have ended up making sense. They didn't look like it at first.
Yeah.
But now, you know, every event, you see every color being played, a fairly diverse top 8. Like, the games are interesting. Yeah. Even with there being a giant pool of cards, you're not seeing the exact same cards all the time, even within the same deck type. So, like, that's really cool. It's like, they're checking the boxes right now.
There's so much to like about Standard, and there's so much to like about what they've done to make it better. And it speaks to the people in the building saying, how do we make our game better? even with all of this outside force to print more cards, to do all of this other stuff, how do we make the central pillar of our competitive format the best thing that we can be doing? How can we take the game, the game as quote unquote its purest form since they introduced the Pro Tour? How do we return to those roots? And they've succeeded. The changes that they made for Foundations with the 5-year set release plus the slight changes to the rules, the sets coming out and the extension of it to a 3-year timeline rather than a 2-year timeline, the variability, the upping of the strength, I guess, because of the larger card pool. And you see it, the proof is in the pudding. There are not just one type of mono red deck. There are 4 or 5 different mono red decks. There's, this really excellent blue-black tempo deck. There's like green mid-range decks. There's
a Golgari deck, isn't there?
There's a Golgari deck. There's a go over the top of you reanimator strategy. And there's a lot that you can do. And not only is there a lot that you can do, a lot of those decks are affordable. Like the blue-black tempo deck is, it's got some expensive pieces in it, but it doesn't have a ton of them. The mono red deck is all commons and uncommons. And, if you can say that the card of the tournament was a monstrous rage or, a 1/1 flyer for a blue mana that's an uncommon in some set, that's going to be a great sign for the future of the game. So I think it's a really cool thing that we've come this far and that Standard is the format of the year.
I think looking back, playing as long as I have, making this stuff, talking about Magic, talking about Magic cards, talking about formats, talking about Standard over the years, looking at what they used to do with Standard. If you look way back in the day, this is where they said, here is your new deck, right? Yeah. Here's Mirrodin, here's Affinity, here's Judgment or whatever, or here's Onslaught, here's Threshold, here's your pieces. They're the best pieces at these mana values. You're going to definitely play at these mana values. I think they've gotten really incredibly good at knowing what a standard power level is, because the more you can flatten that curve and say, what's the best two mana red card? You don't want there to be like a slap. It's obviously this. And that was the problem with Fable of the Mirror Breaker. They went too far. You couldn't play anything in the 3-drop that didn't start there. So these days, the more that's diversified, the more fun it is, because the more you can really change the way your deck works or plays, and there's no obvious, well, why aren't you playing this? Duh. That's awesome. I love that.
I still love being surprised when my opponent plays a random card, then I'm just like, oh, well, I guess his version plays that thing. Okay, awesome.
It's crazy to me. Like, I'll read cards that are coming out now, and I'll be like, man, that thing surely is a 4 of in the best deck of Standard, and then no one plays it in any lists. Play it at all. Like, what is happening in my life?
I love, just to close it out, I love the quote here from the chat. Eotsby says it's a variant from the quote from Incredibles: when everything's good, Standard is.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Love it. Yeah. All right, let's move on here to another biggie. This is Set of the Year. Ooh. Now, Set of the Year last year went to Lost Caverns of Ixalan. That could have been some recency bias. It was a very good set. But it was a great set. I thought they did a really good job.
People like dinosaurs, man.
They do. This one was almost 100% in terms of the voting. Patrons at 46.2% for Set of the Year. Here are our nominees. Set of the Year is Universes Beyond Fallout, Outlaws of Thunder Junction plus Big Score. They kind of put those together. Bloomburrow, Duskmourn, Modern Horizons 3, and Foundations. And the Magic Micsie goes to Bloomburrow.
Yeah.
Bloomburrow was an absolutely incredible set. It had a fantastic idea attached to it. It'd never been done in Magic, which is honestly kind of a very rare thing. Same thing with Outlaws of Thunder Junction. But I think they really came through here with how the different creature types work together, how the world was fleshed out, the characters in the world, and I had a ton of fun with it. I know it sold absolute gangbusters. They're already planning a follow-up, which I'm very excited about, as they should, because Bloomburrow was great.
I admit that I was a little skeptical about it. Like when the details first started trickling out, I was like, this is a little precious, right? Like mice and wreck. Okay. And so, but I went into it with an open mind and I was not expecting it to be as good as it was, where the cards were good, but not too good. The story was great. Like I keep up with the story on Reddit. There's a really great Redditor that does these summaries of it and people were hooked and people really cared about these characters. And more importantly, people were really sad to move on. Like Duskmourn came out almost concurrently with this.
Yeah.
And like, as we started moving into Duskmourn, there were a lot of people that were like, I'm not ready to go yet. Like, I want to stay. You know, not only was there the tonal shift of cute little animals to horror, but there were a lot of people that were like, I really want to spend more time with these characters. Like, I don't want to leave just yet. And to me, that was another sign that this set was such a big hit. Like, normally you're kind of ready to move on, right? Where you're like, okay, we've seen it all. You've wrapped it up. Like, what's the next one? But, you know, people really, you know, just wanted more. And I think that was really telling. And I really enjoyed the set. It was a good set.
Yeah. This was close for me. I really wanted Foundations to get its due because I really think that it is one of the most creative, interesting things that they've done to bolster Standard. I think that there's a really good, compelling argument for Duskmourn as well because of how modern it is and how much they took risks as it pertains to going into the sort of more recent types of fiction with that and Outlaws of Thunder Junction. But for me, Bloomborough, you know, I have a soft spot in my heart for any setting that doesn't have humans in it. You know, that's why I love Lorwyn so much, one of the reasons. And then Bloomborough was just this great translation of theme into Magic set. And it just did it so well and so cleanly. And it added so much power to Standard. And it brought so many new people into game stores. And it sold so well. And it expanded the fan base. It just had to be there for me ultimately at the end.
Yeah, that's why I almost voted for Bloomborough. It's just the new player acquisition part of it was so big with that set. And I think it hit a home run there because we haven't really had a set like that I would say was immediately when you saw it, new people were drawn to it. You know, where Foundations kind of went the other way and it brought old players back into the fold, right? Like
interesting.
Other cards that you were familiar with. And it's like, oh, I remember playing with that in 2012, you know, or whatever. Right? And I can play with it again. Like, this is awesome. And the other thing I think Foundations did very well is it's planted a bunch of seeds that they can build around since it's going to be around for 5 years, right? Like it can be the linchpin for a lot of other stuff. And you even saw like Goblin decks are playable now and, you know, a bunch of random things because Foundations existed. So those two sets were the only two that really were going to get any consideration from me because they felt so much higher than all the other sets of this year.
Yeah, as somebody who has a lot of creature type commander decks, I was loving Foundations. I had demons, I had a new Phyrexian to play with, I had a couple horrors. I was like a kid in a candy store, and Foundations is a very good set.
Yeah.
Yeah, Foundations for me was the core of like they reprinted what? Like
huh? I'll take it.
Yeah, like they played what did they just play against me in Standard?
Right.
Weird.
I like that they went from Llanowar Elves is too strong for Standard to Standard is so strong we need Llanowar Elves in it, which was excellent.
Yeah, for 5 years it's going to be at least 5 years. It might get reprinted again.
Oh my god! All right, well, that said, we move here to our final category, our prestige winner for Card of the Year. Now, Card of the Year last year was the One Ring, I think, for a lot of obvious reasons. And the Card of the Year this year, our nominees are Sheldon the Commander from the Secret Lair, Nadu Winged Wisdom from Modern Horizons 3, Psychic Frog from Modern Horizons 3, Caretaker's Talent from Bloomborough, Simulacrum Synthesizer from Big, this will be the big score, Unholy Annex / Ritual Chamber from Duskmourn, and the Magic Mixie for Card of the Year goes to Nadu Winged Wisdom. Now, this is not the only time that the most hated card is also the Card of the Year. This actually has happened many, many times over our 9 Magic Mixes award shows. However, and I do think it sucks. I'm not going to say it's great. I do think it sucks that we often focus about what the most negative thing of the year is. But I also want to recognize that part of this and part of my vote is what do I want to, what do I think of when I go 2024 Magic? Man. Nadu was just such a thing, and it impacted so much, and everyone, gnashed their teeth through the whole time. And when it finally happened, there was a huge sigh of relief. And that was just such a giant drama factor for so long of the year. That's what to me said this was the card of the year. We learned lessons from it. We don't want to play against it ever again. It's killing it in vintage, for God's sake.
Yeah.
This card doesn't.
And I would even argue that we were feeling the effects going into the end of the year. Like, one of the things I found so amusing looking back at Michael Major's kind of mea culpa is he brings up Amped Raptor. And he's like, we made a couple passes on Amped Raptor, and Amped Raptor's fine. Cut to December of 24, we ban Amped Raptor in Modern.
Right.
So just the fact that he was like, oh, look at all the great things we've done. You did for 4 months.
Right.
You were right back where you started from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think Amp Raptor was ever fine.
Hello.
Right.
That card never read fair in any capacity.
Exactly.
It blew my mind the whole time. I was like, how is this?
Yeah.
Fair?
Yeah.
I agree with you that sometimes it is human nature to focus on the negative.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime anyone gives you a compliment, it sticks with you less than when someone gives you an insult.
Mm-hmm.
Nadu, we are not only picking just because it was so powerful and it had so much controversy. It also won a major tournament. It also was banned in more formats than any other individual card. It also had an entire article come out where they talked about what went wrong with it. It covered all of these various bases. And it went, it was a controversial topic. It was a focus of a powerful deck in not just one, but multiple formats. It won a major tournament. It led to like Magic the Gathering design conversations of what are we designing for? And, it reached every corner of the debate space. And for that reason, it was the most talked about card of the year. And that means it's card of the year.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah, I can't fault Joe for picking it. My vote went to Caretaker's Talent because I think that card's going to be a linchpin in Standard for the next couple of years. I think it dominated, I would say, the first half of what we've had of the new rotation. It showed up in a lot of stuff. And it, for a minute, was probably even the most played card from Bloomborough. So, and knowing how much people like Bloomborough, kind of why I gave it the nod. But I can't fault y'all at all for voting for Nadu. That makes perfect sense.
I would note for Caretaker's Talent, just to give that some shine here, it's kind of incredible for white, the color white, to have a powerful card draw engine at all. I just want y'all to recognize until
that's Standard legal.
Until New Capenna, we didn't have white cards that drew cards. Guys, this hasn't been that long ago. It was 2 or 3 years ago. Now we got this white card that's drawing us a ton of cards. We don't even, blink an eye. We're like, oh yeah, white's drawing a bunch of cards and stuff. That's what they do now. Okay, thanks. We only asked for it for a decade and a half.
Yeah.
This is okay. All right.
Yeah. Also, I think that this, in our 9 Micsies, I believe that this is the 3rd time that a card that costs 1 green blue has won card of the year. The other 2 previous times being Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath, and Oko, Thief of Crowns.
Will they ever learn?
Fair.
Will they ever? Yeah, I mean, it's a whole thing. Going back to 2022, the card of the year was the Wandering Emperor. Back a little further, Expressive Iteration. Back a little further than that, we hit Uro. So before we had a 1 green blue.
Wow, Expressive Iteration. That's one I would have forgot about.
Remember that card?
Really? Oh, I mean, that card saw a ton of play and then got
banned. That card
banned.
still boggles my mind. I still see people in competitive formats, and I'm always just like, that's you played that. Yeah.
It's a very powerful card. And okay, it's the whole thing. And as we do here on the show, at the end of each show, we turn the corner here to the finisher, where Reuben writes us a little something to chitter-chat about as we go through our finisher topic here. Now, we've come to the end of yet another year and yet another Micsies. So as we look forward to the 10th annual Magic Micsies in 2025, what do you predict we'll be talking about at this time next year, Reuben?
Other than my age and my back pain, well, social media is in a state of flux, especially with TikTok likely going away in the near future in the US. So I'm excited for the triumphant return of Gleemax, the MTG social media app whose time has finally come.
I would sign up for that.
Yeah, if y'all don't know anything about Gleemax, y'all are gonna hit up the Wayback Machine for that.
That's
right. Like all us old heads get the reference, though.
That's right.
Look, man, one of the first pro tours back in the day, I went to PT Hollywood and they had a giant Gleemax, a giant brain in a jar.
Amazing.
Wow.
It's gonna be the thing, y'all. It was gonna be the thing.
They made Gleemax little stress balls they handed out at one event.
Yeah.
Did they?
They did.
Yeah.
Little
Man, now I
brains.
want one.
Yeah. Power Dragon?
All right. So the irony with Commander is that it's everybody's entry point these days, but also super complex. So I'm excited to introduce a new format that's simple, casual, communal, and I think we can call it Lorcana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's Magic Lorcana. I mean, Aaron?
Well, with Universes Beyond taking over Magic and the MTG TV show always on the horizon, it won't be long until something else will be using MTG, and then MTG will turn that back into a Magic set, and we will finally have achieved the IP singularity.
Like,
yeah.
Layers on layers.
We're doing a Magic set on the Magic TV show.
Yeah. Merge it. Yeah. Magic or Universes
movie,
out, without, within.
Universes within Magic animated series.
Yeah.
Everything MTG all at once. Just stick the eyes on you.
Everything MTG all at once. Exactly right.
There you go.
Yo, dog. Now, look, with the popularity of games like Balatro and Slay the Spire, Wizards of the Coast will release a new Magic-themed roguelike in which players will face enemies, collect items that will help you succeed, and, of course, visit the shop where, as you know, some of the products are not for you. They're just not.
That
I mean,
Hard
fair.
lesson to learn.
Fair.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that is the end of our show. We appreciate you guys hanging out here to discuss all things Magic in 2024 for the Magic Micsies. Thanks so much to our special guest, Aaron Campbell.
Thank you for having me.
It was lovely as always. And that said, we're going to move here to our thank you slide. You guys are lovely. Please support us on Patreon if you can. Follow, subscribe, do things that tell people we exist on the internet because it's fun. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
And now we're going to raid on Twitch.
Who are we rating?
How do you say this?
I think it's Fan Quig Cosplay.
Yeah.
Cosplay.
Looks like they have a Commander show that they play.
Okay.
Or do.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And as always, lots of fun for you guys to hang out with us here for the Magic Micsies. We will see you guys next year for the 10th annual. Oh my God. Until then, we'll be back here next Wednesday with a new episode of Magic Mics, and we'll be back on Tuesday to walk our way through Baldur's Gate 3 once
again. Come laugh at us stumble through Baldur's Gate on Tuesday.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. All right. Good night, everybody.